It's really, really important that you use commas and you punctuate your direct speech correctly when you are looking at punctuating speech. So direct speech and reported clauses are usually always separated by a comma. So you can see in my example here, it really depends on where the first reported clause is, because that depends on where the comma will go. So you can see here that in my first example, the reported clause is after the direct speech here. And that means that the comma must be placed inside the speech marks because the reported clause is after. However, if the reported clause is before the direct speech in this example here, then the comma must go after the reported clause. And you can see here that my direct speech is ended with a full stop. Why would it not end with a comma in this circumstance, year 4? Absolutely, because it's the end of the sentence. Whereas here, the speech has ended, but the reported clause is coming next, so it shouldn't be a full stop there, okay? So always remember that if there's a reported clause after the direct speech, the comma has to be inside the inverted commas, not this side of the inverted commas. And if the reported clause is before the direct speech in green, then your comma must go after the reported clause but before the first inverted commas, okay? There's one exception though, that we don't need a comma after the speech if the speech ends in this or this. What is this, year 4? Well done, it's an exclamation mark. And what is this year 4? A question mark. Well done. So you can see here in these two examples that this person here, the wolf, is asking a question. Why didn't you tell me about the fire? Question mark, which is placed inside the speech marks, cried the wolf. And then the pig has said surprise with an exclamation mark, responded the pig. So you wouldn't need your comma after your exclamation or after your question mark because that wouldn't make sense. So if you're using a question mark or an exclamation mark, you do not need a comma, but you must make sure that if you don't use a question mark or an exclamation mark, that you use either a comma or a full stop, okay? So what I'm going to do, I have got 3 different examples of where there is speech and reported clauses used. I would like you to identify the mistakes. Can you please pause the video and try and spot the 5 mistakes that are here? Off you go. Okay, so number 1, did you spot the mistakes? So I can see here that I have got our inverted commas here, but I haven't got my first set of inverted commas. Now I need to decide what bit is being said. Why wouldn't you mention the fire? Yelled the wolf. I can see my direct speech is, why wouldn't you mention the fire? So I need to make sure my inverted commas are here. I am forgetting something else though. What type of punctuation needs to go before the second closed inverted commas? What type of sentence is this? It's a question, so we need a question mark there. So our first 2 mistakes are the open inverted commas and our question mark, remember? Okay, the second one, the pig smiled. It was just getting hot as well. There are 2 mistakes here. Can you spot them? I can see that when I'm scanning that because my reported clause is going before the direct speech, I need a form of punctuation here. What form of punctuation do I need? Do I need a question mark? No, I don't. I need a comma, don't I? Well done. And because this is the first part of what the pig is saying, what does this letter need to be? A capital. So we have spotted our next 2 mistakes. If it was, the sentence was, it was just getting hot, the pig smiled, as well, then it was just getting hot would need the capital at the start, but because we've broke it in the middle, this as well wouldn't need a capital, okay? But because it's the first start of what the pig is saying, we need a capital. Finally then, I've had just about enough of this, muttered the wolf. Can you find the mistake here? This is a bit more of a tricky one. Think about our punctuation. What's wrong with our punctuation? something about this comma. It needs to go inside this direct speech because it's still part of the direct speech. So well done if you got that one. One more thing then that we need to remember about when we are punctuating speech is that a new line is meant to be used to show that a change of speaker is being given. I want you to take a minute to read this and I want to see what is wrong with it in terms of how it's laid out. So pause the video and have a think, please. Okay, so I know that when I'm reading this, I'm getting a bit confused on who is talking when. It's really hard to see who is speaking when the dialogue, the direct speech is all squished together like it is here. So what we need to do is we need to show a change of speaker by starting a new line each time a speaker is speaking, like this. So now I can see that it's a lot clearer who is speaking and what they are saying. So, the wolf asked, "Would you let me come in?" The pig replied, "You know, really rather not." "I'll start huffing," threatened the wolf. He looked fierce. The pig replied, "That won't work. My house is tough." "I'm coming down the chimney then," announced the wolf. "Best watch out," answered the pig. "Watch out for what?" said the wolf. "You'll see," laughed the pig, giving the fire a poke. So now you can see that there is a big difference between the previous slide where all the dialogue was squished together as opposed to this one. Now, there is a little question down the bottom here. What can you infer about the characters from the direct speech? But we're going to have a look at that in our plenary. For now, we're going to have a brief summary of the rules of how to punctuate speech. Can you pause the video and see if you remember any of our rules from today's session? Off you go. How did you get on? So, the first rule that we looked at is that the inverted commas hug the spoken word. So anything that is being said must be hugged by our inverted commas. Well done if you got that one. The one that we just looked at, each new speaker starts on a brand new line to stop our dialogue, our speech from being too squashed together. Another one, a comma usually, not always, separates the direct speech from the reported clause. But if a comma isn't going to be used, what other forms of punctuation are there going to be here for? Well done. It's going to be either a question mark or an exclamation mark. If the speech ends in one of these, we do not need a comma. Direct speech always begins with a capital letter. Always. Unless the sentence is interrupted by a reporting clause. If you have the same sentence that has just been broken into two halves, then the second part of our sentence does not need a capital letter. Well done. I'm going to quickly explain your main tasks. You can choose which one out of these two that you do, and then we're going to have a plenary, and that will be the end of our lesson for today. Really great listening, Year 4. So, you have two tasks, and these two tasks will both be in your resource folder. The main task, option 1, so direct speech practice 1, is I would like you to rewrite these sentences, but the difference is there's no inverted commas so far. So your task is to include the inverted commas, making sure that they hug the spoken words. But be careful because some of them have this situation like number 6 where the direct speech has been split and separated by our reported clause. Giving you an example here for number 1. I would like you to rewrite the sentence. Please don't just pop the inverted commas on there because you need to practice writing them. So number 1, I would like to see the inside of your house, said the wolf. Do you think I've got this right, and why? Well done. So you can see that I've hugged my direct speech with my inverted commas. I would like to see the inside of your house, said the wolf. I've also remembered my comma here that goes inside of the inverted commas. So that is your first option. Your second option is slightly more challenging, and this option is where you have to first separate the direct speech from the reported clause with a comma. So you can see here the first one, you didn't say anything about the fire, grumbled the wolf. There's no comma or exclamation mark or question mark to show me that the separation between the direct speech and the reported clause. So you first need to add the comma, and I've done that here with my comma here. Then you need to add the inverted commas in. So it's not much different from task 1, but you do need to have a bit more of a thought process when you're deciding where should that comma or exclamation mark or question mark go. Okay, so then I've rewrote the sentence out again, including my punctuation to separate my inverted commas, my direct speech and my reported clause, and then I've added my inverted commas in, and I would do that for the rest of them. Warning, they do get a lot harder as you go down there. Then, this is a task that I'd like everyone to try and do in green, regardless of whether you're doing option 1 or option 2, to have a go at predicting and writing what you think the 3 little pigs might have said to each other if they met up all together after the wolf had gone. Make sure you punctuate your speech correctly and start a new line for every new speaker. So you might have a conversation with the 3 little pigs where they're laughing at the wolf, because what happened to the wolf in the fire? He got burned, didn't he? He got singed. That's the word here, singed, meaning burnt. We learned that in our reading lesson, didn't we? So, those are your 2 tasks for today. On your resource document, I have said that I would like everyone to start on this challenge here, option 2, because then what you can do, if it's far too tricky, you can go to option 1. But I don't want to see lots of children starting at option 1 when I know you're all more than capable at option 2. Challenge yourself first, and you can always go backwards and do the easier one after, okay? So those are your 2 tasks for today, and you just have a final plenary here. So you have got the same bits of text and speech as we looked at earlier when we were looking at that we needed to start a new line for each speaker. Your plenary is the question, what can you infer, so what can you tell about these characters from the direct speech? So what I would like you to do is pause the video and have a think. You don't need to write anything down. Have a think. What can you tell about what these characters are like from what they're saying? Are they nice characters? Are they mean characters? What makes you think this? Pause the video and have a think, please. Okay then, thank you for really great listening today, Year 4. I know today's English lesson was a bit longer than usual, but you've really listened well. Really looking forward to seeing how well you do in this task, so make sure you do send your work in so I can have a look at it. Have a lovely rest of the day, and I will see you in our next lesson. Goodbye, Year 4.